All right, let's jump right in. Today,
Oh.
we're doing a deep dive into Stoicism.
Yeah, and we're going deep, not just like a little intro to Stoicism, you know?
Exactly. We're getting into the mind of Marcus Aurelius.
A Roman emperor, and, get this, a total Stoic.
Like, seriously devoted to this philosophy. And lucky for us, he kind of spilled all the Stoic secrets in his personal journal.
Meditations, it's called. Basically a Stoicism handbook, but like disguised as a diary.
Amazing. We've got some excerpts here from this article called How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, which, by the way, is based on a book with the same title. So we've got ancient wisdom, but with like modern-day life hacks.
Totally. You'll be amazed how much Stoicism is still relevant today. It even pops up in therapy.
Therapy? Really?
Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy, actually.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so before we get too far, let's back up a bit. What exactly is Stoicism?
Well, the core idea is this. You focus on what you can control.
Which is?
Your thoughts, your actions. You accept what you can't control, which is a lot.
Yeah, life throws you curveballs.
Exactly. And you aim for virtue.
So basically being the best version of yourself.
Pretty much. It's like a roadmap for navigating life's ups and downs.
With grace, I guess.
And resilience.
Okay, I gotta admit something. When I hear Stoicism, I picture those emotionless statue people. Like, are Stoics allowed to feel anything?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a common one. People think it's about suppressing emotions,
Right.
but it's more about mastering them. Stoics know emotions are natural, but they don't let them rule the show.
So it's more about choosing how you react.
Exactly. It's about recognizing your thoughts have a huge impact on how you feel.
Makes sense. So Marcus Aurelius, besides being an emperor, which is pretty cool already, why should we care about what he thought almost 2,000 years ago?
Well, Marcus wasn't just any emperor. He was a philosopher king, totally dedicated to Stoicism and his life. Anything but easy.
Yeah, I mean, ruling an empire during plagues and wars.
Oh, and on top of that,
What?
he lost 8 of his 13 children.
Oh, wow, I can't even imagine.
It's mind-blowing. But here's the thing. Through it all, Marcus stayed grounded, stayed committed to virtue.
Like his struggles fueled his philosophy.
Exactly. There's this great story about him as a kid. He was known for being super honest, like brutally honest.
What do you mean?
He would correct adults if they mispronounced words.
No way. So like a mini emperor fact checker.
Basically. And, you know, it kind of foreshadows his whole commitment to reason and integrity.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we see Stoicism isn't just some theory, it's for real life.
Absolutely.
How did Marcus Aurelius actually use Stoicism in his life, though?
Well, there's this key idea called assent.
A sense.
It's about realizing you have a choice in how you react to things, even if you can't control what's happening.
So like when you're stuck in traffic and you can either scream or just chill.
Exactly. That gap between what happens and how you react, that's where Stoicism comes in.
You choose your response.
You got it. It's like taking back your power.
I like that.
And this idea, it lines up with modern therapy, too. Like catastrophizing, spiraling into worst-case scenarios.
In there.
Stoicism helps you reframe your thinking, choose a more rational response.
It's like a mental workout.
For your resilience.
I like it. So Marcus Aurelius, he had some great advice on speaking wisely, right?
He did. He believed in describing events objectively. No emotional drama added.
Easier said than done, though. How do you actually strip away all that emotional baggage?
Here's a trick. Ask yourself, what would Marcus do?
Seriously?
Try it. Picture yourself in his sandals.
Okay.
Would he lose it, or take a step back and respond wisely?
What would Marcus do? That's actually pretty good.
It can be surprisingly helpful. It taps into a calmer, more rational side of you. And this connects to another big Stoic idea, mentors.
Mentors, like wise old guys who teach you kung fu.
Well, maybe not exactly kung fu, but Stoics believed in learning from those who are wiser, more virtuous.
Finding people who inspire you, who can guide you.
Exactly. They believed in having real-life mentors, but also imaginary ones.
Imaginary mentors. Now I'm intrigued.
So Marcus Aurelius, he would picture figures like Socrates and ask himself, what would they do?
Oh, so like an inner council of wise voices.
It's a powerful technique, and we do this today without realizing it.
How so?
We ask, what would my mom say? Or what would my hero do?
True. It's like tapping into the wisdom of those we admire.
And that leads us to another core Stoic idea, aligning your choices with virtue. not just chasing pleasure.
Is this where the choice of Hercules thing comes in?
You know it. It's that classic story where Hercules chooses between easy pleasure and tough virtue.
It's like choosing Netflix over the gym.
Exactly. Stoics believed true happiness comes from choosing virtue.
Even when it's hard.
Even then.
But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy life, right?
Of course not. It's about balance. You can enjoy things without being ruled by them. Knowing everything's temporary actually helps you appreciate it more.
Okay, I like this. So how do we actually integrate all this Stoic wisdom into our crazy modern lives?
Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics, they left us a pretty simple framework.
Lay it on me.
First, plan activities that match your core values. So, what truly matters to you?
Right, if I value my health, maybe I skip that extra dessert.
Exactly. It's about making choices that support your long-term goals.
That's next.
Think about admirable qualities in others. Instead of scrolling through social media feeling jealous, maybe read a biography of someone inspiring.
Or connect with people doing good in the world.
Exactly. Surround yourself with positive influences, even if they're just in your mind.
Love it.
And lastly, practice gratitude.
Gratitude. Isn't that like a basic life tip?
Sure, but the Stoics knew it way back then. They knew true happiness comes from focusing on what you have.
Not on what you're missing.
Precisely. You can make this a daily practice, you know? Just write down 3 things you're grateful for each day.
Simple, but powerful.
It really is. You start to see the beauty and abundance that's already there.
Okay, this is all making sense. We've got accepting what we can't control, choosing our responses, aligning with our values. What else is in this Stoic toolkit?
Well, they had some interesting ideas about embracing discomfort.
Discomfort.
Yeah, and building resilience.
Interesting, because it seems like we're always trying to avoid any discomfort these days.
Right. But Stoics thought that by facing discomfort, you strengthen your mind.
Like those people who take cold showers.
Exactly. Or even just not complaining about small inconveniences.
It's like building up a tolerance for life's challenges.
Exactly. They even had this practice, premeditation of adversity, mentally preparing for tough situations.
Sounds a bit like mindfulness.
It is. It's recognizing that pain and discomfort are part of life.
But they don't have to control us.
You got it.
One last thing before we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what did the Stoics have to say about anger?
Great question. They actually considered it one of the most dangerous emotions because it can cloud your judgment, lead to bad choices.
But they weren't saying to be like a doormat.
Right. Not about suppressing anger, but managing it well.
So, choosing your battles,
Yeah.
responding with reason. Okay, so what's the Stoic playbook for dealing with anger?
First, notice those early warning signs.
Like what?
Clenched jaw, racing heart, that kind of thing.
So pay attention to your body.
Yes. The sooner you notice, the better you can interrupt that anger cycle.
What's next?
Cognitive distancing. Remember, it's not the event itself, it's your thoughts about it.
Ah.
Ask yourself, is this really worth getting upset over?
Will it matter a year from now?
Exactly. Get some perspective. If you can, give yourself time to cool down before reacting.
Don't just lash out.
Right. Another thing. Imagine how a wise person would respond.
Channel your inner Marcus Aurelius.
Exactly. And lastly, consider the consequences. Will acting on your anger actually help? Or just make things worse?
So think before you act.
Precisely. And there's this other Stoic idea I love. They believed that no one does wrong on purpose. People act from their own perspective, even if it's misguided.
So trying to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, even if you don't agree. It's about cultivating empathy, even when it's hard.
It's not condoning bad behavior, but trying to see their motivation.
Exactly. And it can help you let go of anger and resentment.
Really good points. Okay, we've covered so much ground already. Core principles of Stoicism, the life and philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, even tips for managing anger.
And there's still more to explore. We haven't even touched on death.
Ooh, that's a big one.
And surprisingly insightful, I think.
Well, that's a conversation for part 2 of this deep dive. So listeners, think about what we've talked about so far. What resonates with you? What could you maybe try applying in your own life? We'll be back with part 2 where we'll get into that Stoic view of death and what it means for living a fulfilling life, knowing our time is limited. Welcome back. I'm still processing all that from the last part. Stoicism is really making me think differently.
It's powerful stuff. And now we're getting into something maybe a bit heavier.
Oh.
But trust me, it's freeing in a way. Death.
Death. Okay, not exactly a light topic,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing the Stoics had a unique take on it.
They did. Most people fear death, right?
Yeah, it's natural.
But Stoics saw it as a natural part of life, something to accept, not dread.
So no obsession with immortality or fancy tombs,
Not really. They understood that everything changes.
including us.
Exactly. We're born, we live, we die. It's the cycle.
Pretty different from how many cultures view death, even today.
For sure. But it's also incredibly freeing. When you accept death is inevitable, you can focus on living and now.
Not clinging to the past or worrying about the future.
Exactly. Make the most of the time you have.
It's precious after all.
It is. This ties into the Stoic practice of contemplating impermanence, reminding yourself everything changes, nothing lasts.
Like, this too shall pass.
Exactly. Good or bad, it's all temporary.
So embracing that helps you ride the waves of life.
With more peace, more balance, you find calm amidst chaos.
Okay, that makes sense. But did the Stoics have any beliefs about what happens after death?
They weren't super focused on the afterlife. Their focus was living virtuously here and now.
Makes sense.
They did believe that when we die, we kind of return to the universe.
Like merging back with where we came from.
In a way, yeah. They had this powerful image to illustrate it. The view from above.
View from above.
Imagine looking down at Earth from space.
Like those satellite photos.
Exactly. From that perspective, everything we stress about seems tiny.
Our possessions, our worries, all of it.
It puts things in perspective. And it highlights the Stoic idea that we're all interconnected, part of something bigger.
Wow, I like that. We're not the center of the universe after all.
Right, and Stoics use this to remind themselves of impermanence.
That even their own lives would end.
Exactly.
So they believed we shouldn't fear death and we return to the universe. But how does that actually help us live better lives?
Well, when you remember your time is limited, it motivates you to really make the most of each day.
To focus on what truly matters?
Relationships, values, your contributions to the world.
It's like that saying, live each day as if it were your last, but without the doom and gloom.
Right. It's about living with purpose, knowing each moment is precious. There's this story Stoics would tell about Alexander the Great and his mule driver.
Alexander the Great and a mule driver. What an odd pair.
The point is, both Alexander, with all his power, and the simple mule driver, they both ended up in the same place. Death.
Death is the great equalizer.
It strips everything away, leaves just our shared humanity.
Powerful imagery.
Stoics use this to remind themselves true worth isn't about achievements or stuff.
It's about character, how you live.
Exactly. Focus on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, responses.
Don't get caught up in things beyond your control.
You got it. And remember, for Stoics, true happiness, eudaimonia, comes from living virtuously.
So how does this all fit with dealing with challenges in life? Knowing everything is temporary doesn't make the tough stuff easier.
You're right, it doesn't magically erase challenges, but it can help you face them with more resilience. You detach from the intensity of the moment and see the bigger picture.
This too shall pass.
Exactly. A tough work situation, a personal crisis, a bad day, remembering it won't last forever helps.
And it goes back to focusing on what you can control. You can't control the challenges will happen, but you can control how you respond.
Choose to respond with courage, wisdom, perspective.
Don't let fear or anger take over.
Exactly. The Stoics had a lot to say about cultivating those virtues, strengthening your mind.
So you can face adversity with grace.
That's a great transition into the next part of our deep dive.
We've explored the Stoic view of death and how it can help us live more fully. But how do we actually put these ideas into practice? And we're back for the final part of our Stoicism deep dive. It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has.
From ancient philosophy to surprisingly practical tools for today.
That's the beauty of it, I think. It's timeless wisdom.
So let's get down to brass tacks. How do we actually see this Stoic wisdom in our everyday lives?
Okay, so one of the most powerful yet simple practices, negative visualization.
Negative visualization. Wait, isn't Stoicism about being positive?
It is, but negative visualization isn't about dwelling on the bad stuff. It's about mentally preparing for setbacks.
Oh, I see. Like that premeditation of adversity we talked about.
Exactly. You mentally rehearse for tough situations.
So they don't totally throw you off guard.
Exactly. Negative visualization takes it a step further. You spend a few minutes each day imagining things going wrong.
Like, what if I miss a deadline?
Mm-hmm.
Or my flight gets canceled?
Precisely. By mentally preparing, you're less likely to freak out when it happens.
It's like building up mental resilience.
Exactly. And you might even find those challenges aren't as bad as you imagine.
That's a good point. So, facing your fears, but in your mind, in a controlled way.
Exactly. And here's another practice. Gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah, that's a popular one these days.
It's popular for a reason. Stoics knew this all along. True happiness comes from focusing on what you have.
Not what you're missing.
Exactly. Appreciating the simple joys.
A cup of coffee, a good book.
Those little things we often take for granted.
You can make it a daily practice, right?
Absolutely. Every evening, jot down 3 things you're grateful for.
Big or small, it all counts.
It shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Powerful stuff. Okay, what other Stoic practices are there?
Self-reflection is a big one.
So taking time to really examine your thoughts, your actions.
See if you're living according to your values.
Like a personal performance review, but for your soul.
I love that analogy. You can journal, meditate, just reflect on your day.
Ask yourself, where did I do well today? Where could I have done better?
Exactly. It's turning experiences into learning opportunities.
And that's where the Stoic emphasis on virtue comes in, right?
Yes. Striving for wisdom, justice, courage, moderation.
Holding yourself to a high standard.
But remembering we're all works in progress, we'll make mistakes.
It's about learning from them and trying to be better.
That's the heart of Stoicism, I think. It's not about being perfect. It's about embracing our humanity and always growing.
I love that. So for our listeners who are now Stoicism fans, where do they start?
Start small. That's my advice. Pick one practice. Negative visualization, gratitude, self-reflection. Make it a daily habit. Don't try to do everything at once.
It's about consistency, building those habits.
Exactly. Stoicism is a journey, not a destination.
It's about showing up every day and trying to live a virtuous life.
Even when things are tough.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
The Stoics are there for you. Their wisdom is always there.
Well, on that note, we've come to the end of our Stoicism deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much.
It's a philosophy that can change how you think, how you feel, how you live.
So, to our listeners, keep exploring, keep diving deep, and always ask yourself, what would Marcus do?
Until next time, may you live with wisdom, courage, and gratitude for all that life has to offer.